still want those support, not ults nerf? I'm gonna do the science for you guys. I'm only gonna ult against Fire Tornado. They're on fire. I'm jumping in, boys. Yup. Yes, 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 yes. I'm hopping in, boys. Yeah, your supports are useless, man.
So it's official. The triple support meta has finally been brought to an end, and honestly, it's about damn time because some of you support players have been getting real comfortable in the backline just speed charging ults. Now, I'm not here to encourage the support slander. Hell, I consider myself a Vanguard Rising with my Moon and Strategist, so if anything, I'm an ally. But it's time we call a spade a spade. I just recently hit Diamond rank, and I can tell you the #1 problem I've noticed in my Platinum games is that there's been a huge influx of players who have just basically heal-botted their way through the ranks. Yeah, I'm looking at you. No damage rocket. You can absolutely tell who only knows how to play a character versus who knows how to actually play a role. And most games either end up going ult for ult between supports, or we lose purely due to the lack of damage output to counter the enemy heals. Here's where being a good anchor tank comes into play. Not only is it your job to sustain and hold space for your team during those clashes, but it's also your job to be the primary target for said heal-botting teammates so they can charge their ults faster. And now, with the new support nerfs and dive character buffs on the way, that last responsibility just became even more important. So today, I'm going to teach you the essentials about playing Anchor, and we're going to talk about the 3 best tanks to do it on. I'm also going to highlight some of their unique strengths and weaknesses that you'll need to know if you want to put this strategy into practice. And as always, there will be timestamps in this video so you can skip to the hero that you're most interested in, or just use it as references for when you want to rewatch the video. Let's start with the obvious choice and honestly the easiest to learn, Dr. Strange, aka your team's Uber is here.
Go, 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 go! Healer's down. Let's go!
Let's go.
Let's go!
First things first, the #1 rule of playing Anchor is that you need to be front and center taking aggro and soaking up damage. Strange is essentially 2 tanks at once because his shield has 800 health on its own, and you're literally carrying it around in your back pocket, so it's quickly accessible. So if I see you cuddled up in the back line on Strange, I promise you, I'm gonna genuinely start tweaking. Also, alternating between primary fire and your melee is the secret to Strange's burst damage capabilities. Now, this is typically a DPS trick, but the cadence of his primary fire is so slow that you have plenty of time to weave a melee in, and it makes the overall combo a burst of roughly 100 damage. You also have his Maelstrom of Madness, aka his push ability, that you can weave into that combo too, and it gets stronger every time you land a primary attack. There's an icon in the center of the screen that charges as you land those hits with your primary attack, and when fully charged, that icon will glow purple. In this state, the Maelstrom of Madness will deal 130 damage to anyone within 5 meters of you. Now, you don't want to hold on to this for too long though, because it will also apply an anti-heal debuff to Dr. Strange, which will make him unable to receive any healing until that energy is released. Now, once you're in the main fight, you have 2 decisions to make. If you have a second tank on your team, or at least a good defense for your supports, you can push past the enemy and try to burst down their back line. Once you do that, you're free to start bursting down the enemy tank too because they have no healing. Or if you're taking too much heat, just start backtracking with your shield up, either on foot or with your escape ability in the air. Now, if you're solo tanking on Strange, then your goal is to engage frontline to frontline and basically just start brawling. And you're going to pray that your DPS is doing their job by targeting their backline instead of you doing that. Either way, the key points to remember is to use your burst damage combos and to develop shield discipline. Don't be that guy that walks into every engagement shield up, just watching it fade away, because all you're doing is making the shield weaker for when you actually actually need it, which is either to escape engagements or to counter enemy ults. If anything, you can pop up the shield for a brief period to interrupt enemy combos, but remember that melee still goes straight through Strange's shield, which is all the more reason to avoid using it at the start of engagements. Moving on to our next beefy boy, let's talk about Groot. Groot is probably one of the most misunderstood characters in the game, and I'm about to show you something that I can guarantee you that 90% of the people who have tried him before have never realized. We all know Groot's walls need to be awakened in order to activate their additional effects, but did you know that Groot has a faint green ring around him that constantly shows you the activation radius of his walls? Not only that, but his walls are also activated by any teammate that's also standing within his radius. So essentially, the goal is to always be aware of how far you are from both your walls and your teammates. You definitely want to be in the center of the action with Groot, but you never want to overextend. Otherwise, you risk throwing away more than half of your kit. The other thing that people fail to realize is that Groot's Ironwood wall shouldn't be thrown haphazardly in front of the enemy unless you're specifically trying to create a barrier to block an enemy ult or deny the enemy access to a specific area. The Ironwood wall is actually the source of Groot's sustain because as long as it's awakened, it'll give Groot up to 250 bonus health, depending on how much damage is being done by you or by your teammates within that activation radius. So when I play Groot, you'll often see me throw the iron wall up to the side or behind me because as long as the wall isn't directly in the way, the enemy team will rarely go out of their way to destroy it because it has a whopping 700 health on its own. It's another tank on the field. And after that, I'll use the Thornlash walls to set up damage traps and mitigate enemy attacks and separate enemy tanks from their healers. These walls have about 250 health on their own and they have a shorter cooldown, so they're more than enough for most engagements and you can use about 3 of them at one time on the field. Lastly, just like Dr. Strange, Groot also has a burst damage combo. If you put up a Thornlash wall behind your enemy, you can throw his Spore Bomb, which hits for 2 explosions, mind you, and it'll activate the wall itself twice and then follow up with a primary attack. This combo could be enough to burst down a squishy 250 health character so fast that it's not even funny, and it's definitely something I recommend to learn as a vital piece of Groot's arsenal. Finally, saving the best for last, we get to talk about the #1 lead tank, Magneto.
Went down fighting. The moon by the eye of Agamotto.
Oh,
It may not mean nothing to y'all, but understand.
Trust me, I get it. His attacks are slow, his movements are slow, and his overall gameplay loop can be pretty boring. But after maining him this season, I can guarantee you that Magneto is the all-star MVP for lead tanks, and he is absolutely worth learning. What makes Magneto so great is not only his ability to sustain himself, but also to protect his teammates in an instant with his invincible shields. Also, his ultimate has been the #1 counter to support ults this season, and he'll continue to be a great shutdown option after the nerfs. And for a bonus, they're finally fixing the registration issues with the ult next patch, so we're finally gonna beat the washed aim allegations. By the way, if you're interested in all the things that you can counter with Magneto's ult so far, I made a separate video on that and I'll link it in the description of this video so you can check it out whenever you want. Just like with Strange, Magneto is about practicing shield discipline since both of his shields only last for a few seconds each. Your metallic curtain is your get out of jail free card for any projectile in the game, but even so, you want to use it sparingly so that way you don't have it off of cooldown whenever something that you actually need it for, like an Iron Man ult, comes your way. Your main bread and butter is your bubble shield that grants you 3 seconds of invulnerability, and you can either apply that to yourself or to an ally. Now, even though you can apply the bubble to yourself, you should be applying it to your diving teammates or to your supports in the backline that are being targeted by enemy dives and ults. That way you can give them a little extra sustain. And there will be more nuanced opportunities to use it, like when Cloak and Dagger is ulting or when Scarlet Witch is ulting. But the only advice that I can give you to get better at practicing this is to practice increasing your game sense. Being Magneto means you have to read the battlefield like a chessboard, and you have to be aware of a lot of different variables at once. You only have so many moves available to you, and you need to almost be surgically precise with your actions because the recovery time between his attacks is just super slow. Speaking of which, it's important to note that Magneto has the weakest primary attack of everyone listed in this video, but his attacks do have a secondary AoE explosion, and they can reach up to 25 meters, making him really good at applying poke damage on the backline without breaking through the enemy's front line. You also have one combo available for burst damage, which is his primary fire plus the mag cannon plus the primary fire again, but you need to be careful doing this because Magneto's mag cannon will push enemies when it's fully charged, so you may accidentally push your target out of your effective range if you're already playing at that 25-meter cap. Now, if you have the team up available with Scarlet Witch, Magneto gets a huge damage upgrade in the form of unlimited range slashes from his melee. However, the hitbox on those slashes are a lot less forgiving than you think, so I essentially use them in close to medium range to either chunk down an enemy tank that's trying to run me down, or to burst the squishies in the back line for a quick pick with 3 slashes. Now let's talk strategies. As Magneto, you can either anchor or play as an off tank depending on your team comp. As a solo tank, you'll definitely find yourself hugged up to your supports more often and focusing on defense almost the entire time purely due to Magneto's lack of having an escape ability. However, if there's another tank available, either a dive tank or another anchor tank, you get to have a bit more fun by aggressively applying that poke damage while also supporting your team's divers with shield bubbles. And if a Wanda team up gets thrown into the mix, then you can even go as far as becoming a pseudo DPS every time your sword slashes are active and chase down quick picks. Regardless of the team comp, most of the same rules still apply though. Prioritize drawing aggro and staying within range of your healers without overextending from the map objective. It's that simple. As a quick bonus, I wanted to add that each of these characters have a limited but effective way to deal with flyers. Keep in mind that each character has about 20 to 25 meters of range on their primaries too. Groot's primary is definitely the most difficult to land because his arms have a travel time like Mr. Fantastic's, only you can't swing Groot's arms to hit a target. However, when you do land an attack, you're dealing a huge 70 damage chunk. Now on Magneto, you can ping a flyer and lean on the AoE damage from his primary at that 25 meter range, so you don't even have to worry about hitting direct hits. And on Dr. Strange, you can just straight up fly towards them and either use his primary fire to burst them down or lean on his burst combo if you can get yourself close enough to land a melee. And that, my friends, is all I have for you today. I hope that you've learned something from this video that can help you win more games and climb that comp ladder. And if you did learn something, leave something in the comments section so that others can learn from you. And if you enjoyed this content, leave a like on the video so I know to make more like it. And if you want to catch me live, I stream every Friday at 8 p.m. EST right here on YouTube. So as always, I appreciate your viewership, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.